think we're going to get along just fine.
Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Academy. I am your host, Justin.
And I'm your co-host, Ian.
And I am the guest, DM Scotty!
This podcast was created to provide you, our heroes, with new and reusable material for both players and DMs. We got a guest on. That's his line.
What? Since when?
Since I said so.
Where will my line show up?
On the show notes, it's italicized.
Oh, okay.
We hope to inspire you with creative content.
To inspire you with creative content.
That you can bring with you on your next adventure.
Your next adventure.
Nailed it.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but
Sorry,
neither
I'm
is our
not seeing
D&D
the
games.
What's that?
I'm not seeing the notes.
Oh, you don't have the show notes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I thought I sent them to him.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you can bring with you to your next adventure.
Our show may not be suitable for young children, but neither is our D&D games.
It's true. I am really excited for our show today. We're about to do an interview with somebody I have followed on YouTube for a long time.
It's true.
Back in my good old 4th edition days when I got hardcore into modular terrain design, because I got tired of using the same square blocks over and over and over that came with kind of my 4th edition kit. I found DM Scotty's YouTube page, and it was amazing. If you guys don't know, I'll tell you a little bit about it. You build modular. You help teach people to build modular terrain.
Yes.
And more importantly, that it's affordable.
Yes, it is.
That's a huge thing. I've kind of given kind of an overview. DM Scotty, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I kind of went through the life thing, and I got out of D&D for quite a while. I had kids and everything, and I played a little bit with the kids through the years, and it was more theater of the mind type stuff and maps and that thing. But then some friends of mine at work said, "Oh, let's play some D&D," and I was kind of the one that had really only dungeon mastered before, so I got nominated, and I wanted to bring more to the table than just like maps and theater of the mind. I wanted kind of like, and we started playing 4th edition, so it really kind of begs for terrain, right?
It does,
really
right.
Kind of maps and terrain. So I started thinking of ways that I could do it cheaply, and that's how I got started. And I thought, well, I think people would like these ideas. I might as well do a few videos. I just threw a camera down, started shooting some videos. They're not that great, but I just started throwing them up there, and they just caught on, and people just loved them. So I just kept making more and more, and I'm still making them.
Nice.
Yeah, they're amazing. Like I said, the very first one you did. Correct me if I'm wrong. You actually went back and remade that one, right? The first episode.
Yeah.
And it really, that's something that really got my engine fired. Before we get into that, I'm been a big fan of yours, so of course I'm going to use this opportunity to pick your brain, not as the DM Scotty, the DM's craft man, but as you as a DM in general. Would you tell us a little bit about your most memorable D&D moment? Oh
yeah, definitely. There are a lot, but this one kind of really stands out to me, right? And what really gets my engine going for like those moments is like character choice, right? What the character chooses is the most interesting thing to me. It's not what ability you use to get past the magic door. It's not whatever, plan you have to sneak past the guy. It's what choice you have to make. Sometimes you have a bad choice and a worse choice, right?
Yeah.
so those are the moments that I love as a DM. And
Right.
This was one of those moments. And the players were just kind of emotionally just reeling from this. It was pretty brutal. So I'll set it up for you.
Definitely.
The players had been through this, we're going through this castle, and they had run into this minor villain, and it was kind of expected that they would kill the minor villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the minor villain lived. He ended up living, and so that's always interesting in the game when that happens, right?
Yeah, because usually they expect to just mow everything down and be done with it.
Right. So the way it worked out is he managed to survive. he also captured one of the players before they escaped through this portal.
That's awesome.
Yoink!
But they took this key so that he couldn't follow them, right? So the player was telling me, well, I kind of like to make a new character. And I said, okay, let's do this. I'm going to have that character that was captured killed, all right? You just go along with it. You don't say anything don't tell them that you know about it, right? So they ended up helping this elf who was part of this evil organization, and they were going to execute her, or they were going to assassinate her. Someone else in the group was going to assassinate her, and so they helped her survive that. And so she befriended them and turned against the enemies, right? Now, for her part in joining this cult, her family had been cursed. It was this family curse, and her brother had this malady where he was like this giant mutated elf. So he was like, had one small arm, one large arm, and he was kind of mentally deficient, but he still had the little elf ears, and it's kind of like this ogre thing, right?
Oh, that's
so he was
awesome.
kind of lurking around in the adventure, and they saw him a couple times, and they had a little bit of interaction with him. So she said, okay, I know this enemy that that has captured your friend. I'm going to try to go there back through the gate. They gave her the key. I'm going to go back through the gate, rescue your friend, and come back before you leave, because they had to leave in these crates that they were going to go into this. These wyverns were going to fly them up to this castle, right? And they had this special magic whistle that could control that. She gave it to them.
Nice.
And
That's awesome.
So they were going to fly up in these crates and pretend like they were cargo or treasure or whatever, right? So they're waiting for her to come back, and she comes down this path where the portal was, from this portal, and she's like just messed up. She's bloody. She's got some kind of obviously some kind of malady, like, and she has something. She was cursed, and she had these black veins, and all this stuff, and she's stumbling down the path without their friend, and she falls in front of them, and they're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And she's like, he discovered me, and I wasn't able to save your friend. He killed your friend. And they're like, what? Because they had no idea.
Right.
Yeah, and they left their friend. Like, they had the choice to, like, their friend had been captured. They had the choice to leave and get away, or to fight this overwhelming force and try to save their friend, which would have been really dangerous, right?
Of course.
They were beat up at this point, right? So they said, okay. They're like, oh, Scott won't do anything like that. He won't kill him or anything. So they go through the portal, right? And then they find this out, and they're reeling from this. They're like, oh, my God, what? And, the guy's, like, hamming it up. He's like, you let me die? You let the guy take me and kill me and all this stuff? And they're like, oh, God, it's so awful. They're cringing. And then she's like, hurry, he's following me back through the portal. You've got to hide. And so they run and get in these crates that the wyverns are gonna pick up. So they're, I don't know, about 30 feet away from where she fell. Okay. So the enemy comes down the path, and he's got his elite guard and everything, and he's like, why did you betray us? And you made me do this. And then he starts talking to her about, you made me kill our child, because she's pregnant with his child.
Oh, shit.
He put this curse on her, and
Wow.
basically this malady, and is killing her. And, so he's like, mad at her for doing this. And the players are like, oh my God, this is awful. And so then I had, not only that, but I had the brother run out, the mutated brother. He's like, no. He's like, because he's about to kill her. He pulls up his blade, and he's about to kill her. And her brother comes lumbering out, scoops her up, and is holding her like, no, sister. And so his guard just starts stabbing the brother and her, in front of the players, and they're like in these hiding in these crates like cowards.
What?
This just keeps
like,
getting worse.
they're witnessing this horrible scene, and he's like, no, sister, I love you, and all this stuff, and they're stabbing him, and
I wish the audience could see how animated you are. It's glorious.
Their faces were just, just mortified, and then like. So, then her brother just falls to the ground in a bloody heap. And So then I made it. Then I turned it up a notch, right? Even worse than that.
You could turn it up from there.
I turned it up from there. So there's a warlock in the player, or there's a warlock in the party. I've never done this before, but I allowed him to be evil, right?
Okay.
And he's working for his patron because they're going to fight Tiamat at the end, right?
Okay.
This whole ritual to raise Tiamat. It's,
right.
It's the Horde of the Dragon Queen or whatever, and they're going to raise Tiamat. So. What he wants to do is usurp the ritual from raising Tiamat and raise his patron as like the
snap!
Nice.
Right.
That is awesome.
So the patron's like had given him this sack that he wasn't sure what he was going to do with it, right? He didn't know what to do with it, but his patron directed him to get this thing. So this patron tells him now, he says, capture the soul of this child, in the sack. And he's like, yes. And so he opens the sack, and like the soul comes swirling up of the baby, in the air, and like flies into his crate. And like the enemy sees it. And the players are like, what? They're like, what did you do?
Oh my God.
Like, so the enemy starts to walk over there, like, what's going on? And then like they blow the whistle, and that's when the wyverns come and like fly them away.
Wow.
But yeah, that was it. So it was just like, that was like a very emotional scene.
Yeah, I can barely take it in, and you're just telling me about it.
I'm cracking up.
I couldn't imagine being a player invested in that when that stuff's going on. I mean,
Right.
Man, this is that's almost as twisted as when a player we dubbed Baby Killer told us her backstory.
oh no.
Oh jeez.
For the record, that backstory is why we call her Baby Killer.
Choose. I love those things the players choose,
Yes, that is by far probably the best memorable D&D moment that I've heard. You shook me to my core with that, man. That's amazing. What an amazing experience. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Wow, Tater, you just missed it.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch it back later there, Tate. Shame on you for being late. He's like, I almost forgot. I do realize that this is an abnormal recording time. That's the way it goes sometimes. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing that amazing experience.
No problem.
So like I said, I'm a huge fan of you. So I'm like shaking. I'm so nervous, and that doesn't generally happen to me. So I have a question for you. I think that one of the parts of being a role player, whether you're DM or player, is there are moments in our gaming career, I suppose, where we fail at something. Is there a moment where you have failed either as a DM or a player? And if so, did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think, you always have these little failures when you DM, but usually the players don't know about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more on yourself. Like you're like, oh, I kind of not happy about the way I handle that, or I whatever. And you definitely learn from those. Like you will just get better as you DM more. You will get better and better. Right. But even a good DM can have a bad night, right. And you just like nothing's clicking right, or whatever. There are some nights where everything is on full cylinders. It's fantastic, and there are other nights where it's just kind of it's there. It's okay, but it's not as good as it could be. And that's just the nature of it. I don't think you should really beat yourself up for that because we're human beings, and you're just going to have better days than others.
Oh yeah.
But you have those little mistakes. I've never really had a catastrophic failure. I think that I will never ever do that again. I've had more little failures that I've learned from.
Is there a particular one out of all those you could cherry pick and maybe tell us about?
I'm not a great reader of text, right?
Oh,
yeah. Like when you read it, I don't like people reading text anyway. It sounds like you're reading text,
right.
But I'm really not good at it. So when I read text, I really sound like I'm reading text. So I don't do that. I just summarize in my own words. I have to do that. Me personally, I have to do it. I summarize in my own words what the text is, because if I read it, it sounds like I'm reading text. And people fall asleep.
I was going to say, and let's be honest, they're not paying attention when you're reading the text anyway half the time.
No, they're not. They're not, actually. They're not really paying attention.
I think I've talked about it on the show before. One of my favorite features of like playing on like Roll20 is that if I need to, I can just copy and paste the dialogue in there, so they don't got to keep asking me what I said already.
Right? Yeah. That's
So I
yeah,
definitely can see that.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned this example a million times, but without going into detail, I remember when a friend of mine gave a very specific and clear description of a captain of the ship they were on. They left, they did the adventure, they came to the town, and they're like, "We got attacked by pirates!" And the description they gave the captain was the same as the ship captain, but I went,
Oh yeah, because the captain that's been ferrying him around is the captain in the red coat.
Yep.
And they went and asked him about the red coat.
"Hey, captain, have you seen anybody with this description?" "Nope."
That's funny. That's a good example of that. So
I know I use it a million times, but it just
right.
it's so good.
Yeah, it fits. Now, how long would you say you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons, or role playing in general?
Yeah. I played a lot when I was a teenager. The early AD&D and all that kind of stuff. I'm 54, so you can do the math. But and then, like I said, I got out of it and I played some with the kids. And then, like I said, the group, it's been probably about 15 years I've been back into it.
Okay. In all that experience and all that time, specifically maybe even talking about 5th edition, since it's the most current edition, is there any special house rules or classes that you could share with our listeners of Crit Nation, something that you do that's not part of the normal rules and something you feel is needed in your game?
Yeah, I do. I love the advantage disadvantage mechanic.
I agree.
Use more than just for like normal rules, right? You can use it, for other things. And what I use it for is if players are helping another player do something, then I give that one player advantage. So say for example, you have a perception check, right? Mm-hmm. And you might have a situation where one player would make the perception check because they're in the only spot that could see the perception, right?
Right.
But usually it's the whole party would have the chance, and a lot of people have everybody roll for the perception, right? Somebody's going to make the roll,
right.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, the chances are, if you have like 6 players like I do, someone is going to make their roll, right?
Usually.
Even someone with that's not that good in it.
Okay.
So what I do is, if everybody's kind of looking out and helping, I have the player with the best skill roll the roll, but roll it with advantage.
Okay.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah. So not everybody's having to roll every time, and that kind of thing.
Well, and what's cool about that is A, you get rid of all the dice rolling, but B, you significantly increase the chance of failure while at the same time giving them the illusion that they have more of a chance at success.
Right. They're getting some benefit from it, but it's not like, oh, we're always going to make it because somebody's going to make the roll.
Right. And the fact that you call out the person with the highest skill, which makes sense. That is really... That is interesting. I don't know why I never thought of that, and I want you to know that I'm going to, in fact, steal that from you. So thank you for that, Scotty. I appreciate it.
There is one other thing I've been doing. You know how, dispel magic, and, it can, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I found that it's really interesting to allow dispel magic to work on things that would not normally work on, but let it be temporary. Like, say there's an artifact, and of course you're not going to be able to spell the magic from an artifact, right? But maybe if you cast the spell magic on it, you can have a minute or so where you can get past it before the magic reactivates.
Like treating it like sort of dampening the effects as opposed to removing them.
So just temporary damper, and that works really good because it drains the resource, the spells of the people you're still having to give up something. You're not getting that effect, but you're having to give up something which is a valuable resource, your spell slots.
Right.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to get past something, and if they run into a complication, they may have to cast it again.
Right.
Like, the effect is coming back up. You got to cast that again or whatever. So I like to do that.
With that, it's not an all or nothing. There's a little bit of gray area in between that we can work with.
Exactly.
So, okay, now I'm going to get kind of power gamey on you. If I am a player and I am a wizard and I run into a guy with a flaming, sword that's lit on fire, and I wanted to do, dispel magic, would you either allow it to dim for a certain amount of time or weaken the damage? How would you rule something like that?
That's a really interesting point because I've never had that happen in my game.
Yet.
When they've asked to do that, it's been like usually magical effects.
Right.
That they're doing. Like I had one thing where there was this. They went into this Yuan-ti caverns, and I had these eyes of the Yuan-ti gods, and they started like dropping out serpents. Like serpents started pouring out of the eye. I had armor, like a set of armor, kind of in a pile at the bottom of the pillar, and the serpents were crawling in the armor and like forming into like a person, right? And serpents are crawling between the plates and stuff, coming out the eyes of the helmet and all this. And then, pretty bad. But the one of the players saw this happening and cast a spell magic on the eye that was creating these serpents. And so what I had the creature still spawn, but it was like janky, like it was walking all like it wasn't totally filled with serpents. So it was like walking all, slow, and it was like I gave it half hit points because she had stopped the effect. That was cool. Interesting. That made that kind of just normal encounter really interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and what's really cool about that is because you're taking a utility ability and giving it a lot more versatility, I would say, and by doing that, you are directly telling your players, I want you to find interesting ways to use your abilities besides just blowing shit up and stabbing it. And having a wizard, when you've got to pick between the uses of your spell slots, it can be risky. Either I can blow something up, or I can try this and maybe it'll work. But by having a gray area in there, it's a little bit less risk for them and is more encouraging that sort of train of thought, and I love that.
And it suddenly occurred to me when I drove you nuts when I kept on casting Banish on a dragon.
Yeah, you're a bastard. So they're was that the one you guys were doing the sky battle?
Yeah.
Oh, banishing my dragons right out of the sky. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that?
It worked.
That's a good example. You used a utility. They were literally in mid-combat, and he's just like, he did the Thanos snap pretty much.
Cool.
Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about you and your DMing, we kind of went over briefly about the DM's craft. I have a few questions in regards to the specifics of the DM's craft. Shoot. Your art, it's what you do is an art, crafting these terrain pieces and the different models you make. Like I once made one of the little pillar columns you made that was broken. I think in your example there was like a big ogre guy knocked it down, and you made the two different parts that then separated and created like a broken terrain, which was just baller, by the way. Do you have like a background in art or something that helps with the DM's craft, or is that something you've developed over time because you do the DM's craft?
I was an art major in high school, but yeah, there's really nothing beyond that. But I've always loved drawing and painting and that kind of thing. And I used to play a lot of war games. I used to play a lot of 40K and that kind of thing. So I made terrain, for that. Okay. I made all kinds of terrain for that. But when I started this channel, I was like, I was going to make a lot of terrain, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I was like, well, how can I make this stuff look really cool without spending a ton of cash? And that was kind of what the theme that I ran with for the DM's craft.
Yeah, and it like I said, it definitely showed. For somebody like me who was using like the D&D 4th edition tiles, those were expensive to want to keep buying the sets. To stumble across your site that says, hey, with glue or with a glue gun, a little bit of spray paint, and some cardboard, you can make some badass looking terrain. Let me show you how it's done.
Right.
With some spray paint, some cotton balls, and some toothpicks, we can do wonders.
When I first saw your channel, I literally thought to myself, this is D&D MacGyver. I'll never forget that.
I've been called the Bob Ross of crafting too.
Oh, that's a good one.
And here's some happy little bushes.
Right here, happy little bushes over here, and there's a deadly Umber Hulk right over here, and right here behind this door, we're just gonna put a powerful necromancer just for you.
Yeah, you have an angel's little pin over here, and
the necromancer, he's smiling, he's happy to see you.
So I was wondering, would you be able to kind of walk us through the development process? You talked a little bit about how it came to be. Can you walk us through the process from where you started to where you're at now and that journey? Can you take us on that journey with you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My technique has evolved somewhat. And, I started with a 2.5D, which means, people that don't know, it's simulated walls. So the walls don't get in the way of play, because when you're playing, because coming from that war game background, we used to stand up. So having all that 3D terrain was fine. But when you're sitting down eating your Cheetos, you don't want to stand up all night, right?
Right.
You don't want to stand up and look at the terrain all night. So I wanted to think of a way that everybody could see everything. If you have all these walls and all this 3D stuff, you can't really see the terrain. So, I tried to make it so that you could do that, and that was where the 2.5D came from. Then I kind of did a little more modular, where I did the 2.5D next, which was just the walls that you placed on a mat.
Yep.
And then my newest iteration is called Tilescapes, DM Scotty's Tilescapes, not to be confused with printable Tilescapes. But anyways, DM Scotty's Tilescapes, which are basically, I just use either craft foam or cork boards, and I use stamps. I make stamps out of foam core to stamp the texture on, and I do both sides. So you can turn it over, and you have one texture on one side and another texture on another side. You're getting double duty out of one tile. And I don't put the walls on the tiles anymore. Okay. So that saves, you can really be modular. You can make anything, because you don't have to worry about the placement of the walls, right?
Right.
Now I might put windows or other things at the edge of the tiles to kind of give the illusion. I call it isometric. I've been told that's not true because it's 3D, but to me it reminds me of like 3D isometric, essentially, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so so that kind of, it gives you, like, I might do a cathedral, and I do what I call fronts, where it's the front of the cathedral, okay, and then it's open. The whole building's open in the back. There's no sides or roof or anything. And I'll put the tiles down, and I might put windows on the sides of it, or that kind of thing. So it kind of defines that space, even though there's no walls.
There's nothing there. Wow.
It's all invisible walls, but you're getting the flavor, of the space. So
yeah,
that's kind of the latest way I do it.
Yeah, I've checked out the 2.5 and then the when you did the blocks. You've got so many videos. I haven't seen the new ones yet.
I've got like almost 700 videos, so that's totally understandable.
That's amazing. I think that when I was watching it religiously, I made it into the hundreds, and then you came out with this new one that was about making like spell effects, and that drew me away from the terrain to trying to make spell effects, and I'm like, he's got too much stuff for me to do.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
All right, with some popsicle sticks and some fishing line, we can do.
So when you're going through your modular designs, specifically for like your YouTube channel, which is it youtube.com/DM Scotty? What is your YouTube channel?
It's the DM's Craft. If you type in the DM's Craft, you'll easily find, in any browser, you easily find my channel.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that I said DM Scotty when literally it's written DM's Craft like 20 times on the sheet that I'm staring at.
See what I have to work with?
Yeah, whatever, man.
You'll probably find me too if you type in DM Scotty too, because that's all over my work too.
What is he asking?
There's like, it helps with the mind's eye, and everyone is very similar, where just describing each person may interpret it a little bit different.
That is, yes, so that's definitely advantage over using DM Scotty's DM's Craft terrain, where when you do theater of the mind like I do now, people do perceive things differently, so you will get the question, where am I in relation to this sort of thing? So that's one of the biggest advantages that I love about modular terrain, is there is no question about it, and more importantly, I don't have to draw it.
And actually that's why and generally speaking, that's actually why I prefer playing on maps.
Right.
Because I have been, I'll admit, 9 times out of 10, Theater of the Mind works just fine, but there have been some times here and there where some descriptions given definitely create some interesting interpretations, especially one time where we're in the Masonite Cave area. I take this on me, you don't see him. What?
And there are definitely shortcomings of Theater of the Mind, and that's where this train. And actually, before we started here, DM Scotty, we were actually just talking that as of late, I've been more Theater of the Mind. But after setting up this beautiful scene that I did for my players, which includes you, I'm thinking more that I'll do Theater of the Mind for the lighter stuff, and then when I've got those big boss battles, I'm gonna go back to using all these big trains, because I kind of miss this. This is beautiful setup. I think I put some pictures on our Patreon thing, but man, it's gorgeous and beautiful, and thank you.
And I guess another plus side that terrain has over like a theater of mind is like, let's say somebody casts fireball. So how many enemies can I hit with fireball? 2. Whereas like,
right.
Whereas on the map, I can hit those 5 guys, no problem. Boom.
Yeah, there's no question where it's going to hit or what it,
Right.
Yeah, there's none of those kind of questions. Now this is interesting, and I hadn't really thought of it this way, but recently, you guys know Hanker and Fresnel, Drunkards and Dragons, Runehammer.
Yes.
Okay,
well,
yeah,
I don't know.
He's a crazy genius. He's an amazing genius. So I love his system, by the way, called Index Card RPG. I play that a lot, but I'm a big D&D player. My group loves D&D. So, but anyways, he said something on one of his podcasts lately that really resonated with me. It was that he said that you need when you're doing these stories, when we're sitting around the table telling these stories, you need a campfire. Okay. And what that means is you need something to look at, right? Whether it's terrain or a graphic or whatever, you need something to focus on. And he says, I am not backing down from this. Like, I will not, like, I am saying this definitively. I will not back down from this no matter how many arguments I get. I totally believe this. And I am so on board with that because even when I don't, like I run online games and I don't always use certain maps. I'll just, what I'll do is I'll put a picture of the area up.
Yep.
And that will be the fireplace. That will be the campfire, right?
Sure.
That's kind of the thing that sets the mood of the scene. Even though it's not specific where everybody is, it still sets that mood. So, but terrain even goes further than that and really draws you into this world, right? You notice that with your players, right? When you just played this last game, you set that thing down, it drew them into that world. Like there was nothing else going on. They were there. They were in that world. And that's what's so amazing about that campfire, that terrain.
Does that sound familiar, Ian? Is that how you felt when I unveiled that?
Yes.
Because he hasn't been with me since because I used to do this heavily, like I said, in 4th edition, and I kind of moved away from it in 5th edition. And for you to see all the work that I put into that, it shows, stuff. And you were the look of awe in both you and Matt's eyes was just.
Oh, hello.
It was like, what the hell is this? It looks awesome. So it was a lot of work, and a lot of work thanks to you. And
I
made it possible.
Good things here. I never see good things here.
Sorry, what?
It's worth it just for that. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, whatever. Did you want to take that next one? Yeah. So that's really, that sounds like a lot of work in your process.
All right, and generally speaking, for this next question, what kind of challenges do you feel that you've run into over the years as you're trying to get all this terrain built together or trying to focus on one element in particular?
Oh, yeah, like what kind of challenges I have to overcome?
Yes.
It's, it's like you what I think about a lot for when I make terrain is playability, right? You could spend a week making this awesome castle encounter that this huge castle or whatever that they're only going to play in once. Like, how many times are you going to use that? So what I do is when I have the terrain, I don't worry about having every single thing built out. Like I did a castle encounter where I used the map of the castle, and then when I had encounters, I set stuff down to have the encounter as opposed to laying the whole castle out. That would have taken me weeks and weeks and weeks to try to craft all this, and they didn't even go through the whole castle, right? So, I think being smart about the terrain, being modular about the terrain, and using my techniques, the quick techniques, because like with Tilescapes, there's no walls, so I don't have to worry about that. Also, I can stamp the different sides. I stamp the different textures.
Right.
So I can stamp out a whole dungeon in an hour. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
If you had to carve that out of foam or whatever, you'd be weeks carving all that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And those boring squares, it's like the boring square dungeon, is kind of the antithesis of me. I like to have more interesting. So I do different colors of stone, sandstone, bluish stone, greenish stone, and with the Tilescapes, you can do that quickly.
Right.
And if I'm having a game coming up, I can finish it. I can actually finish it. If I got to carve all that out of foam or something, I may not be able to get all that done because I can do with the stamps. I can do crazy patterns and all that kind of stuff.
And that's actually happened to me. I was laying out. This was a couple years ago when I was doing still using all the modular terrain, and I was getting frustrated because I was running out of time to build the terrain. And I was doing less work on actually making sure my story was flushed out and everything was ready. So when the time came, I was only half prepared on both. So if you've developed a newer, faster technique, that's amazing. Of course, I'm lazy, so if I wouldn't have waited till like the last couple days, I probably wouldn't have had that problem. But I'm a bit of a master procrastinator. So if you've got I'm going to definitely have to check out the new technique you got going on because it sounds fabulous.
Yeah, check out my Tilescapes playlist because there's a lot of great time saver techniques.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. And sorry, brain fart there.
Yeah, I can make it bigger.
No.
All right, can you see it?
I read it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, bro.
I'm good.
Are you sure? Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Positive. I'm positive that I'm positive.
Okay. But
All
does
right.
that make a negative? Wait,
No.
Two negatives make a positive. Two positives don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. And what's your favorite part of working with DM's craft?
My favorite part. My favorite part is seeing the players' faces when I lay this stuff down. Artists may not admit this, but when people admire your work, it's just a great feeling when someone says whatever art you do, right? Whether you do a painting or whatever you do, when someone admires it, that's just, you swell with pride, right? And when I lay this stuff down, and their faces like go wow, and they're so drawn into this world, that is such a reward to me.
Sure. I totally get that.
So I'd say that's definitely the favorite part is the reveal.
Yeah, and you know what? And I personally experienced that again yesterday, and I actually had forgotten that feeling. Because it's one thing to have a reveal and like a plot twist, but I had a cloth over it. So just to pull a cloth off this and watch them go, and I totally 100% get that. And I had forgotten that because I don't have that when I run Theater of the Mind.
Right, yeah, you won't have that. Yeah, you won't have that. But
no.
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling.
So how long have you been doing the DM's craft? How long have you've been making these videos? You said you got 700 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
I think it's like 6 years now. It might be a little longer than that, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In all the content that you've made and everything that's a part of your either part of your DM's Craft YouTube page or something you've done for yourself, is there a product that you would say is your favorite or your greatest creation? Like an evil doctor, I'm
really happy with the purple worm build I did because so many people found it useful and got joy out of it and like, wow, I can make something cool out of junk. I mean, it's basically like toilet paper rolls, toothpicks, and some sand, it's like, and a glue gun, it's like, and white glue. It's just like, wow, I made this really cool, terrifying monster out of just junk. And that's great, when I see people enjoy, crafting and they feel that my goal has always been to make people feel that they can do it.
Right.
You can look at some of these amazing terrains and people can be like, there's no way I could ever do that. It's going to take me years just to learn all these techniques.
Right.
But I want it to feel that after you sit down for 10 minutes and watch this video, you can do it. And I find that people can,
You are very successful in that because as a person who has loved this product, every time you did something and I watched the video, I'm like, I can do that. Now, to your amazing credit, I did do that, but still, it didn't look nearly as good as yours. Every time I made one, I'm just thinking to myself, he must have made like 1,000 of these before he recorded it. Because I never get it quite right.
Fine. That's fine because when you lay that on the table, that's 100 times better than a map.
Oh, for sure.
Your mind, you know what I'm saying? Because they're actually experiencing the terrain, that you've built for them. And even if you don't think it's the greatest creation ever, it's still something that they're focusing on and they're moving into that. They're mentally moving into that world.
I'm now curious what you can do with a sack full of marbles.
Do you have a video that involves a sack full of marbles?
I don't, but you could really, I'm really loving lighting lately because the LEDs are so small and that kind of thing, and I've been doing like crazy stuff with it. And my videos haven't quite caught up with it yet, but I did do this Lich video recently where it's like floating on this, magic cloud of magic where these lightning bolts are coming out. They're all lit up, and the Lich's staff is all lit up, and it's a lot easier than you would think. You could use marbles to transmit light. Put them on some terrain and then have the
cool.
light come through them and that kind of thing. So that could be really cool.
That sounds awesome. Look at that. He even had an answer for you.
Nice.
Oh, and you mentioned the lighting. And actually, over on my table here, one of the things you used to make was like take a tea light and make a little brazier. I always say brazier, but it's not brazier. It's brazier.
That's a very different thing.
Yeah, and
lit brazier, right?
And it gives off this great feeling. And to do more with that, I gotta catch up, man.
Yeah. Check out some of my newer videos. Yeah,
I'm like, I'm 100 videos in. I'm 600 videos behind.
And my production value has really, really ramped up. I've got new equipment. Better everything. So I'm much more video savvy and everything. So my videos have just leaped in production value. So
a little practice goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. And it's been a lot of practice. So.
With that many videos, no kidding.
Okay, before we continue real quick, I just got a message from Tater saying the stream cut. So let's take a gander real quick.
What?
No. Oh, yeah. It looks like it on YouTube.
I blame Google.
Well, Streamlabs still says it's streaming. So we're still sending a signal to. I wonder what happens if I refresh it.
We get signal.
Yeah, if you refresh it, it looks like it might come back.
Might.
Because it says we got a green live stream health.
And there's a counter going for a timer. Although we don't see the actual video stream, to be fair, either. It's just still doing that spinning.
This is why I've been trying to get away from YouTube, because we don't ever have streaming issues with Twitch. It's always YouTube. Do you stream on YouTube there, DM Scotty?
I don't stream much, but we did stream recently. We actually had like a kind of craft con. It was a very small get together of some people in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And we did stream some stuff from that. We did a game. I did a game with Bill Wylock. I did a game with Vanessa. The three of us were together. We were these dwarves in this scenario called "Dude, Where's My Cart?" We were these drunk dwarves who lost our cart and we're trying to find it.
Huh. I just posted another link. We can see if that one works. Because it looks like it's working through the gaming stream channel.
Dude,
he said it is back. I'm going to say I'm plugged into the Ethernet, so it's not on me. Unless Alicia's in the house streaming Netflix. She would do something like that to me. She's been informed.
I blame Comcast. I know you have Charter, but I still blame Comcast.
Anyways, so I'm glad that's back up. Thanks, Ed, for all your hard work. Couldn't have done it without you. So we already kind of touched on that. And all this, and all the work that you do, and all the inspiration that you create for us, and the valuable resource you are to us. Do you have a favorite resource that you go to when either creating content for your game or even for your show or your YouTube channel?
I like to watch. I'm in the Tabletop Crafters Guild. I like to, we love to encourage each other and watch each other's vids. We all have different approaches. Wylock's crafting vids and Black Magic Crafts vids and that kind of thing, as well as DMG Info. We're the kind of the guild masters of the Tabletop Crafters Guild. We also have a Facebook group called the Tabletop Crafters Guild, so if you want to join that, you're more than welcome. There's links below my vids to join that, so that's easy.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm really inspired by everybody. I watch Runehammer, Drunkards and Dragons. I watch the other crafters that are in the other groups that have smaller channels and that kind of thing. The crafting news, different. I try to watch as many of the other crafters as I can, and it's just we're all inspired by each other, I think.
That is awesome.
Resources. They are quite helpful no matter who you are. It's like having minions. You can always use minions. Minion, clean my apartment.
You sound like my wife. DM Scotty, as we're bringing this we're reining in this interview, we're bringing it to a close, and I'm sad because I'm really having a blast.
He is.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks, guys.
I'm feeling like a fireball in Mage right now, and I'm just blowing it up.
Point. Not as much as after we went to Tony's. Just saying.
Oh man, that was terrible. There's a story behind that we don't need to get into right now.
No.
I was wondering, is there one piece of advice that you'd be able to is there one piece of advice that you would give our listeners in Crit Nation, either as a crafter or as a DM?
Oh, right. As a DM, there are a lot of skills that go into being a DM, and it's going to take time. Like, there might be that rare individual that's a great DM immediately, but I think that's rare. Like, I've only gotten better with age and experience. I feel my DMing, with rare exceptions, is pretty great. Like we have, and I measure that by how fun I think much fun the players are having.
That's the only measurement we need, man.
Fair enough.
Right. And if they're having fun and really getting into it, then you're doing your job right.
Right.
And as far as the crafting, I have a few videos on like tips to keep yourself from going nuts while you craft, because you really can. It's too lengthy to go into here, but you really can burn yourself out on crafting.
Yes.
It's a lot of work, and I have a lot of tips that you don't burn yourself out on something you love.
Great. After that one comment you just made, I'm curious if you've done anything with either peanut or walnut shells. Is it going nuts?
Oh my god, dude! Really? I see what you did there. Yes, and I actually suffered for that one time. The very first set of tiles that I made, I started and I didn't stop for like 3 days. I think I went to work once and I might have slept an hour. But by the end of it, I didn't want to do any crafting for like a couple weeks.
Right.
And after that, I regretted that because I had so much fun when I started. I was so burnt out at the end that I'm like, man, I should do it in smaller spurts. So then I started like focusing on like your individual, your. I think the one I remember specifically doing after that was this one where it's got a centerpiece where a person is like being chained up in like a sacrificial chamber or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And after I did that, I'm like, that is so much better for me than trying to do like 20 different pieces at once. So I can totally understand that it is easy to burn yourself out on something you really enjoy doing.
It is. And I think people have to be careful of that, and I do have a few videos on that. So that's some advice I've learned myself over the course of the years I've been doing this.
Right.
I imagine cardstock can go a long way too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that gets used. So that's really awesome. Crit Nation is really grateful to have all your expertise on here and sharing the DM's craft with all of us. It is a powerful tool, not only for DMs, but it's something you and the players could do together if you wanted to. One of the sessions that I did, I had my players come and we sat and crafted together and we helped build the encounters. Now I didn't tell them what went to what. It was kind of Here, you're gonna follow.
I know a lot of players that do that. Actually, they help their DM with crafts.
And it's a cool thing to be able to sit down and do that's D&D related, but not D&D. And I ended up using it one time when I only had 2 people show up out of 6. So we're like, do you want to help me build some of this stuff? And we had a blast. Yeah. So as a person who loves your product, my Crit Nation would probably kill me if I didn't ask. Do you have any secret projects coming up that you can give them a little taste of?
Ooh, I sure do. I'm working on a full set of underwater terrain.
Okay, you had to mention underwater terrain.
And I'm really trying to be interesting with it. Not just your standard looking rocks that you see. Here's a rock up here and here's a rock in the water. It's just maybe a different color, has an algae on it or something. I'm really trying to make it unique. And I'm also doing a big zombie shark, which is fun.
Oh, that sounds so much awesome. Now, I don't know if you know, but we are actually writing an adventure for the DMs Guild right now that is complete underwater adventures. So
that is awesome.
So now I'm super excited to see what you're coming up with.
And now you have to stop at the fish tank store.
I gotta stop at the fish tank store? No, I'll make it myself. That's how DM Scotty. That's how the DM's craft works.
That's right.
So that's exciting. So now that you kind of opened this can of eels, can't say worms because underwater go with the theme. This can of eels here.
Worms fits.
How are you
for fishing?
Oh, whatever. Do you have any special plans to deal with like the multi-layer stuff?
Oh, right. That's a good question. What I do is I kind of, I don't worry so much about the height of the enemies. Now, what I do is I'll stand them on clear plastic containers. I've used little cocktail glasses. I have actually a video on flying creatures, and I do a similar kind of thing. I just stand them on a clear cocktail glass or whatever, a plastic. You can get like a dozen in one pack or something. You can stand them on that, and you can use dice if you want to denote, the height or whatever.
Right.
But I really don't worry too much about it. I'm not too crazy about the measurement, as far as how that goes. I'm very lenient with the measurement. It's kind of like you can move about here, kind of thing.
He's above you. That's good enough.
Yeah, he's above you. He's a little higher than you are, and that kind of thing. You can also, I've also done, those clear plastic containers that dice come in.
Oh,
dice sets. You can use one of those for a certain height, for like kind of a lower height, and then put two of them on top. They stick together in the base, so you could use that as a higher elevation.
I've been using that trick for years. Never thought to use one on top of the other. I don't know why.
Yeah, try it. Yeah, you can have a lower elevation and a higher elevation, and that that's for most people that's probably good enough.
Sure.
Edward Tate says maybe DM Scotty can work with you on your project. Dun, dun, dun.
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, we're super excited for that. One thing that we've kind of know, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. One thing that our adventure is focusing on is how being underwater alters like spell effects in a way. Is that something you have any experience with?
Not much, no. Not much with that. I really haven't done much in underwater adventure, so
that's pretty
kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's generally how it seems to be when we ask people. It's like it's kind of one of those things everyone thinks is super cool, but not very many people have done a whole lot with it. So
right. You definitely want to think about it though when you run it, because you're going to have different experiences.
Right.
Like you can't really shoot a bow. You throw spears, and they're going to go at a lesser distance and that kind of thing. So you got to think about all that stuff.
Yeah, I think in our aerial and underwater combat episode, we talked about instead of lightning shooting like in a straight line, it end up turning more to like a cone effect.
Right.
And things like that.
Yeah.
Although you could make the argument, well, it's not real lightning; it's magic.
Yeah, I know, but that's kind of one of the.
I'm just saying you could.
Yeah, no, I got you. I think we had this debate.
We did.
All right. I think that'll do it for our main topic today. So before we close out here, and before we move on to our tips and tricks, DM Scotty, do you want to give yourself a plug and before we close out here?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So like I said earlier, if you just type in the DM's Craft in any browser, you'll definitely find my YouTube channel. I have a website too that has affiliated links, so anything you purchase from that will actually help the DM's Craft. So that's a nice little way you can do that. I have a Patreon, and those people have really helped me like improve my equipment and that kind of thing, improve my production. So just thanks to those people. I am on I am on Twitter, but I really don't use it much except just to post that I have new videos. And we have the Facebook group, the Tabletop Crafters Guild, which is over 20,000 crafters in it. Wow. So you go there and you will be inspired. And we try to keep it, on topic, on crafting. So it's a great group of people. We don't allow people who kind of bully other people or that kind of thing. It's all helpful people, and those people that don't last long, because my personality is, I want to help people with this, and it's not about who's better or who's worse or whatever. It's about encouragement. It's about encouragement, and because anything you make is going to look better than a piece of map, drawn on a map piece of paper. So
I agree.
And I actually encourage the people that are just starting out more than like someone who's built some amazing thing, because they know they're amazing, right? They know that I built amazing. But the people who are starting, they're the ones that need the encouragement, because they're just going to get better with practice. And like I said, even if you don't think you're good, you put that on the table and your players are going to be like, wow, what, this is awesome. I can actually hide behind this pillar, or I can see where the boss is, or I can, there's an altar here, maybe we could shut down the altar, all that stuff just really is a game changer.
Yes, absolutely. I think that you nailed it. I think the DM's Craft is an amazing resource. Listen, Crit Nation, if you have not done your own tiles, even if you're a Theater of the Mind person, make sure you visit the DM's Craft on YouTube. Visit his what is your website address?
It's just the DM's Craft, or DM's Craft. Yeah.
There you go.
DMscraft.com.
Check it out. The content's amazing.
Sarah just joined in.
Oh, it's too loud. She was napping. Sorry, Sarah.
You snooze, you lose.
Hello, Sarah.
Snooze, you lose. I see what you did there. That's funny. Well, DM Scotty, I cannot tell you thank you enough for joining us. We really had a blast, and it was an honor to have you on the show.
So glad to be here.
So thank you for joining us.
Actually, before you go...
It's been great. It's been fun.
Yep. And before you go, what is your favorite methodology of creating like a stone texture, if you will, for like not for like tiles itself, but for like models on the terrain?
Create stone texture.
For getting like a stone texture.
Yeah.
A great technique to do is to use a sponge.
Okay.
So paint it like a darker gray. Then use a damp sponge. Drain most of the water out of the sponge. Put a little bit of light gray on it, and just boop, 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 on the texture. It'll look like stone.
So that's how we're going to do my grand outhouse. Got it.
Oh my god. So they got a reward of some land, and they're building on it, and he literally built like an outhouse on the mainland, and then has the team like digging underground. So it's an outhouse when you walk into it that has like stairs that go into the ground, like the Hive from Resident Evil.
Yeah, once you like
that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, once you put the lever to reveal the secret passage. But yeah, the entrance appears to be a outhouse, but I made them build out of granite.
That's fun.
So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for those of you that tried to join us. And we will see you guys on Monday. And we'll see you guys later. Let's wave at the camera. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody, take care.
See ya, Scotty.
Bye-bye.